Today in this video, I'm going to tell you the 5 things that you should be aware of before moving to Atlanta in 2024. Hey guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Nick Franchik. I'm a realtor here in the Atlanta area, and here on this channel, we're going to be talking everything real estate, everything Atlanta, and I'm going to be doing the best I can to paint a clear picture on what it's really like to eat, sleep, work, play, and most importantly, live and buy real estate in this growing market. So that being said, let's jump right into the list with point number 1, which is Atlanta's traffic. So I can remember as far back as 15 years ago growing up here, people complaining about the traffic and the fact that it's not getting any better with time. We are a very sprawled out city, very reliant on our personal cars, and I have experience living in other major cities like Los Angeles, and you may know from experience living there or just by reputation, one of the worst cities with traffic. And I know what it's like to sit on the 405 or the 10 freeway in that gridlock where it takes a minimum of an hour to get anywhere you want to go. And I hate to break it to you with the bad news, but here in Atlanta, we experience the same thing. And sometimes I don't even know the difference of what city I'm driving in. If you're leaving your house during rush hour, please expect to be in some sort of traffic, especially if you're on 285, I-85, Georgia 400, any of the major highways. In the morning, starting at around 7:30 a.m. all the way to about 9:30, 10, and in the evening, starting as early as 3:30, going all the way to 7:45, expect to be in some sort of congestion, something that we all have to deal with here. So it's important to just really understand where your kids are going to go to school, where your job is located, whether you work remotely or you're going to be going into the office, commuting every day, and just generally what areas of the town you want to be close to. This is important to avoid daily headaches and frustration, but again, something that we have to deal with here on a daily basis, living in Atlanta with, the amount of people moving here. And relating to the amount of people moving here, I think there's a number of reasons. We have tons of large corporations here, employment opportunities that people are looking for, which cause people to move here every year, especially since COVID. Here we have a ton of large corporations that call Atlanta home and are headquartered here. So you have Delta, Home Depot, Coca-Cola, UPS, just to name several. So you can imagine the attraction that it brings people looking for jobs when it comes to living in Atlanta. I would say that, and the fact that neighborhood development and expansion outside the perimeter has just created a reality where we are experiencing longer commutes to get to the places we want to get. And the reality of the matter is traffic is just going to be a daily struggle for you depending on where you live and what's important to you when living in this city. So let's talk about Atlanta's affordability and cost of living. Point number 2 on the list. So Atlanta, as spread out as it can be with its neighborhoods, home prices are no different. It is really dependent on where you're looking, but home prices can range anywhere from the median home price here in Atlanta, which is sitting at around $484,000, well north of $1 million, depending on where you're looking. So I'm going to be using NerdWallet, evaluating some metrics of Atlanta compared to some other major cities. And we see that Atlanta sits about 2% higher than the national average, with housing being the most significant component of that number. Like I said before, Atlanta's median home price is sitting at around $484,000, and compared to a city like Los Angeles, where the median price is $1.2 million, and Miami at $676,000, you can understand what I mean by Atlanta being still much more affordable than some other major cities. One of the main reasons why people continue to move here. Now, like I said, home prices can vary, and it is truly dependent on where you're looking. If you're inside the perimeter looking at more upscale areas like Buckhead, Chastain Park, parts of Midtown, expect to see home prices literally well north of $1 million. The same with outside the perimeter in areas like Alpharetta, Milton, Sandy Springs, and school districts are dictating these home prices as well, where people really want to be to put their kids in the best schools. And by the way, I am a licensed real estate agent here in Atlanta. Would love to help you with any of your real estate needs, whether you're local looking to list your home and move to a different neighborhood, or you're abroad or out of state looking to relocate here. Please contact me through any of the ways down below. Email, call, text. I will be the ones answering these calls, responding to emails and messages. So would love the opportunity to earn your business. So number 3 on the list is distance between neighborhoods in Atlanta and just general distance to other major cities in the country. So if some of you are probably already aware, there's a lot of different types of neighborhoods, both inside the perimeter and outside the perimeter. And I'm gonna take a pause for a second and explain to you what that concept actually means, because I've said it, I think, like 1,000 times already. So if you're looking at a map of Atlanta, you're gonna see a highway called I-285, and it creates a huge circle around the city, going east to west. If you are inside that circle, consider yourself ITP, inside the perimeter. And yeah, you guessed it, if you're outside the circle, you are outside the perimeter. I would say inside the perimeter is where you're gonna find a lot more of the fun activities that you probably hear about when it comes to going to different types of museums, one of which is the Coca-Cola Museum, the Georgia Aquarium, one of the largest aquariums in the Southeast, I believe, and just a lot of diversification of different types of food and restaurants and shopping. You have Phipps Plaza, Buckhead Village, a lot of different types of places you can visit compared to outside the perimeter. Now, I will say, outside the perimeter, a lot of different suburbs are creating their own city centers, one of which you'll find very popular is downtown Alpharetta, which is near Avalon, but I still would say it's not as diverse as what you can find inside the perimeter. Walkability is not very strong when it comes to living in Atlanta, so if you want some sort of walkability, I would say try looking inside the perimeter in certain neighborhoods, which will give you more access to different types of spots that you can walk to compared to being outside the perimeter in a suburb where you're going to be driving pretty much everywhere you want to commute to. Now, when it comes to Atlanta compared to other cities and its proximity to other major cities, that's one of the biggest, I think, cultural shocks that some of you may find when it comes to like being able to drive to another major city. Like it takes 5 hours to get to Savannah, which is on the Atlantic coast, really cool spot. Hilton Head, down south, if you try to cross the border into Florida and go to Sandestin, which is a popular vacation spot, all places that you can get to in a car, but you're looking at a minimum of a 5-hour drive. I remember living in LA, the luxury we had of being able to get in your car and within a few hours really get to San Diego, Las Vegas, Palm Springs. That was really, really cool and something that I don't think we experience here in Atlanta. Now, what I will say, Hartsfield-Jackson, as you probably know, one of the busiest airports in the world, you can pretty much get anywhere in the world and within a 2-3 hour flight anywhere in the country. So that is a plus when it comes to Atlanta and having the busiest airport, but something to consider if you are planning to move here. All right, so let's talk about number 4, which is Atlanta's weather. Now, I'll say something cool in Atlanta that we can experience is really the true essence of every season throughout the year. Spring and fall are my personal favorites. Winter and summer are pretty brutal. And when I say brutal, some of you may laugh. It really, winter is not as bad as, Minnesota or Chicago, places in the Northeast like New York. You're not gonna be spitting, trying to see if your spit freezes here. It's not gonna get that frigid when it comes to temperature. But really the downside for winters in Atlanta is extended periods of time of just muggy, wet, windy time frames, and really just doesn't allow you to go outside and enjoy any. And the same with the summers. I mean, the summers are brutal. Right now we're in August and we're experiencing temperatures up into the mid-high 90s with humidity that makes you feel like you're walking literally into a sauna. It's very different than the dry heat you experience out in Arizona or California. Here with the humidity, we have a lot of mosquitoes and just that temperature that can just make you feel like you want to melt. I would say the only city in the country that experiences worse summers would be Miami potentially, but I don't know. The summers here are brutal, winters as well for me, but I do love spring and fall. Spring with all the vegetation we have here, the amount of flowers and just nice weather that we experience. It really motivates you to get outside, just like the fall as well. So people who like doing outdoor activities, you're gonna be doing the majority of them in fall and spring and enjoying the vegetation and time that comes with those seasons. Okay, so number 5 and lastly on our list of things to be aware of before you move here is Atlanta's crime rate. So despite some higher stats, and I was surprised to see this before making this video, but we do rank higher than some other cities like New York and LA when it comes to crime rate, I will say that as spread out as we are here, it is localized to specific areas. So at the end of the day, you have to use your common sense, what time of the day you're going outside or walking on the street, and what areas you've been told not to be close to and stay away from, and what other areas are better. I will say that Gun ownership is actually allowed here in Atlanta. No permits needed. I was literally at Publix the other day, which is a local supermarket here, and the guy in front of me getting a sub was literally sitting there with a gun in plain sight on his hip in a holster, and he didn't look like he worked for the government. He wasn't a cop, and he was just a normal citizen. And here in Georgia, you can see those things. So that could be potentially a culture shock for some of you moving from other types of states that don't allow that, but it is something very common here. And I will say, if you use your common sense, most of the areas you will be around in Atlanta are safe. I've lived here for a number of years. I've never felt unsafe. But again, I haven't been walking downtown at 3 in the morning, so you have to use your common sense. You know, just be smart on where you're going, at what time of the day you're outside, and you should be fine just like everyone else. All right, guys, that's it for video number 1. I hope you enjoyed it. If you found any value in it, please like, subscribe, share with your friends. I will be pushing out content here in the near future that I hope you guys like, comparing different neighborhoods, doing home tours of some of the most desired real estate in the city, and just giving as much information as possible, making you and your transition here a lot easier if you are looking to move here. And again, reach out to me through any of the ways here below. Would love to talk to you and kind of gauge your situation to see how best I could help. And I'll see you in the next video.